Does the gospel come with fine print? In Acts 15, some people argue we're saved by grace, and other people say that maybe we need more rules. And this time, unity doesn't come easy. Join us as we talk about it.
Welcome to the Morning Manna Podcast. You're invited to the table for real conversations about faith, culture, and the everyday pursuit of loving God, loving each other, and loving the world around us.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Morning Manna Podcast. We're so glad to have you. I'll be your host, Nick Ertel, and today we've got on the podcast lead pastor Chris Fletcher.
I'm here again.
You are here again.
For now.
We've also got Sam Fletcher.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Fishing.
And
Hello.
we've also got Pastor Jeff Christensen.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, well, good to have all of you. So, and there's also producer Bryson.
Hello.
Producer Brad.
Good to see you.
PB.
Yeah, the pleasure's all yours.
We just need a J. When
We
James
do.
is on, we can have PB and J.
Yeah. I like
Ooh,
it.
that's a good
Producer
idea.
Bryson and James.
I think that's
You
good.
know what? That's good.
Yeah.
Just me and James for a podcast.
Yeah.
That'd be
So
entertaining.
PBJ.
That'd be
I
good.
don't know if we'd get much done, but
James
sure would be entertaining.
James would be entertaining.
Yeah, so PBJ, peanut butter is just there to sort of, decide what flavor of jam you're going to get. So I feel like the J is the,
I don't
the J's
agree
the
with
hero.
that.
James
Really?
has lots of flavors of jams.
Well,
so
I like peanut butter.
I like peanut butter too. It really does depend on what kind though, right? So if it's just like your run of the mill,
Do you do crunchy or non?
I love crunchy.
I like crunchy, too.
My kids don't like crunchy.
I'm not a
both,
crunchy
yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a jelly and a jam?
that sounds like an icebreaker
is-
question.
I'm not entirely
Wait
sure,
till your episode, Samuel.
but I do think
Yeah.
I do think
Stepping on
it's
your
important,
toes.
it's important to note that there's like a hierarchy in terms of what you put on your PBJ.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like,
Tell us.
Well, like strawberry or blueberry, these are like,
No.
but then you got the weirder
Neither.
stuff, right?
No.
Yes. There's some stuff out there that you go, really?
Well, have you ever had the
That's-
spicy jam?
Yes.
Like a jalapeno
Yeah,
jam?
yeah.
That's actually good.
It
You
is.
do that with cream cheese on crackers.
Oh, heck
come
yes.
on.
Ooh,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
on
yeah,
the tiny
yeah.
bell
Smoked
peppers.
Bagels.
Like smoked
Listen,
cheese?
Yes.
Listen,
A toasted
you-
bagel.
Look here, look here.
Like a nice Gouda.
Every time that a new crop of interns come through, I tell them about, you got to treat yourself. So Aldi in town,
Yes.
you can go get some fairly reasonable cheeses and
Yeah.
meats and whatever. You get a nice little spread going on. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Under $20.
Charcuterie.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You got a little treat
Yeah.
yourself action.
Okay.
So you get a few grapes, little block of cream cheese.
You
You,
ain't
get some of
lying.
that jelly.
Some brie. Come on now.
Some brie.
But stick the brie in the oven. And then
Little melty?
Yes.
Oh,
Put a
yeah.
Not too long.
No,
But yeah.
but enough to loosen it up
Yeah.
some, and then get a little blueberry or blackberry preserves on it.
Oh.
Oh my!
Gents, why we keep
Rapture.
talking about
I'm
this?
hungry.
Why don't we have food on this podcast? Because that sounds amazing.
I will once again remind our beloved listeners that we are open
Taking
to
sponsors?
receiving snacks.
Yeah.
We are taking sponsors.
Yeah.
Dear Aldi, Lidl, we will shout you out
Dear
weekly.
Aldi.
Yeah.
We provide lunch. If
The
we're
Aldi
eating-
that's in
The
town.
Morning
Why'd
Manna
you have to say it's in town?
Podcast sponsored
What
by
you mean?
Aldi.
You said the Aldi that's in town. It's just around Rayford Road. Like, you don't have to say
Well,
it's in
there's-
town.
there's
one on
actually
only
Ramsey
one.
Street.
Yes,
no, there's
that's
not.
three of
There's
them.
Ramsey Street. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's three of them.
All right.
And we're willing to be sponsored by any one of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, the big question is, what is it that you put on your PB&J?
He is totally
thank you for
trying to
bringing us
rob.
back to the
come on.
original.
That's a
Sam's
serious
right.
question.
Sam's
I
right.
really want to know.
He brought us
Peanut butter
back to
and
the
jelly.
original.
My wife actually made strawberry jelly a couple
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
and that's
I don't like strawberry jelly. I'm either
What you got,
raspberry or
Bryson?
blackberry.
Okay, Chris, this is just me and you for a second, okay? Whose podcast is this?
This is Nick's.
This is Nick's podcast.
Not.
So when we're talking about this just you and I locked in.
Yeah.
I said, hey, we should do an icebreaker where we talk about food, and he said, oh, that's not that engaging.
No.
So I
No.
decided- no. This is me and Chris.
Yeah.
He's taking this out of context.
I stooped to come on Nick's podcast. This is an
Yes.
inconvenience for me
Yeah.
weekly.
So I decided to change the icebreaker that I had,
Wow.
where we were talking about food, which naturally came about in this discussion already.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I'm picking up
And
what you're
now
throwing down.
we're going to talk about.
Would you please
Here's
go?
this one question: do you snooze your alarm or do you not snooze your alarm?
Oof.
Now it's for everyone. Welcome back to the
I'm
conversation.
an anti-snoozer. I believe it's for the week. I'm just throwing that grenade out
Oh,
there.
wow. Okay.
Now you know why he wants.
You told
to
me
answer
the other
question.
day that you hit the snooze button.
I literally didn't. That's a lie. And
You said
should
that
repent.
to me. Man of church, he told me on a Tuesday he
You
hit
are-
the snooze button 5 times.
This is why we make fun of Sam so much. He brings this on himself.
What are you talking about?
I had someone
That's the
yesterday
truth.
ask me why. Yesterday, again,
Whoa.
another person
Come
asked me,
on,
why do
dog.
y'all make fun of Sam so much? Listen,
Man, I'm a
he
sensitive
does
guy.
this.
What am I
Something
doing?
has started in my life that you're still a few years off from.
Okay.
But I used to be, I had to get up at a certain time, so I would set it like 20 minutes beforehand and hit snooze.
You would do 2 alarms?
No, I would do an alarm. Yeah, well, I all the time set 2, 3 alarms. If I've really got to get up, I'll set them like 1 minute
Yes.
apart.
Okay.
And they'll ring and make sure that I'm completely jarred.
I don't
This is-
understand that.
Me neither.
Okay.
So you're already accepting defeat before you go to bed. Like, I know I'm going to lose. So I'm going to set another one. And I know I'm going to lose again.
I'm going to take issue
So I'm gonna-
with
You should
that.
wind
That
up. You
is
should wind up the
ridiculous.
guy who could fire you on air.
You're
yeah,
right.
you're right.
Do it.
You're
Please.
right.
Oh, do it.
In an interest to be weaker than you,
Fire.
you work for me. So
Your premise is faulty from the outset.
Yeah, you're an idiot.
Completely.
I hate you.
Yes, that right there.
all the Christians are no longer listening after Samuel's outburst.
And y'all wonder.
I have this real problem now as I keep creeping north in my 40s. I just find myself waking up before my alarm, like on the regular, like legit.
okay.
I have hit snooze button recently, like this morning.
Nice.
But prior to that, like every other time this week, and I've been up early this week, every other time I have just awakened before the alarm went off and gone, well, at my advanced age,
I respect
if
that.
you go back to
Advanced
sleep, I got to get up and go to the bathroom, and then it's like 20 minutes left. You're just up, bro.
How many times do you pee throughout the night?
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that doesn't need to
It
happen.
feels like an invasion of
Too
privacy.
far?
That
Take
is
a lap.
immaturity.
It's
speaking.
brother to
You need
brother.
stop. Just
He's
stop.
going to get uninvited.
But that's right. I do not snooze because I am weak. So in other words, I have trained myself. Don't hit snooze. It is the way to failure.
Yeah.
And so
Identify listeners.
I'm
I'm
up.
eye rolling at what he just said.
I get up.
Jeff Christensen's
Like, I have to.
ancestors, Danish Vikings.
Yes.
Jeff can't hit snooze.
That
Why?
is correct.
It would take him out. You know what I mean?
Everything has de-evolved. Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's
right.
That's fair.
You were a real man.
They say the
Harsh but
world
fair.
is evolving. I'm concerned where it's evolving to.
Harsh but fair.
That's funny.
If that's what's actually happening.
This is a
Sam,
nice icebreaker.
Sam, do you snooze?
I can't hit the snooze.
100% I snooze.
Of course, you look like a
100%.
snoozer.
Listen, I snooze, but actually, sometimes I still get up. Don't call me a snoozer.
You look
that hurts
like
my
one.
feelings.
Okay.
You know, that
Well,
hurts my feelings.
I apologize
But I will
for
get
your
up and I
feelings.
will make a
Trying to get
PB and
He's
J.
Gen Z.
And the jelly that I use for the PB and J is blackberry with seeds.
Okay.
With seeds. That's such a specific.
I love seeds.
Yeah.
I grew up with seeds.
Well,
Thanks
this has
for that,
been
Sam.
truly incredible. I prefer
"I grew up with
the less
seeds."
argument of the food. That felt like a very unifying charcuterie. That's a unifying topic. But
We're talking about Acts 15. So I felt like there should be some.
Oh,
You know what I mean? I felt like we should
a little bit of debate.
Wait,
a bit of
should-
debate.
Okay,
Some
I was
fight among
thinking,
brothers.
I was
Oh,
thinking
okay.
we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about Acts 15, so we should unify around the love of food, which like what doesn't matter. Okay, well, here's the good news for all of our listeners. If we get this video to 750 likes,
Come on.
Nick has to wear a wig and host this podcast.
I don't agree to this.
It doesn't matter.
This is funny.
I'd be okay
As
with
your
that.
weak boss, you got one of two options. You're wearing the wig, or you're on the unemployment line. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So because
So for the sake of me not being unemployed, please don't like this video.
That goes against everything that
I'm going to
Nick
create
thinks
so
about.
many burner accounts to like it. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to create 750 burner
you
accounts.
use all
Wow.
the Manna students to all create accounts and go and like the video.
Manna underscore
right.
students 1.
Yeah,
Manna
what I-
underscore students 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
that would work actually.
It would.
Wow, 750 of them. Wow, is that on the one day you come in the office?
What kind of wig should he be wearing?
I think it
I
should
think
be
a
something
mullet.
like
A permed
something
mullet.
like the Minions, the Gru and Drew. Drew's wig, the luscious.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Luscious. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I thought a Karen
find him a
wig,
luscious wig.
Like some
intense bob.
like some Tolkien elf.
The intense.
the intense Bob.
Yeah. With layers, it'd be great.
Or
right.
something with bangs.
Yeah.
Wow.
All of it would be great. Nick, back to you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. My goodness. Well, we are in Acts 15 this week. How do you turn the table on? All right. So we are in Acts 15 this week.
The
and,
church had its first big fight. What do you mean, Nick?
right.
How do you segue?
in fact,
Stop.
Would you give us the 30,000
Oh my
foot view?
gosh.
What happens, Chris? What happens in this chapter? Just
Yeah.
tell us generically what's happening. And then why is this so significant for the early church?
It seems fairly well. It's on the first reading. There's some that have come from the church in Jerusalem. They've gone out and they're teaching wherever they stop that you got to be circumcised as well. And this is the moment, I believe. This is the moment when the Lord through his church is saying to his people, guys, it's not like this is the stream. And if you're listening, I'm just drawing a straight line. It's not like this is the stream and all of a sudden there's been this divergence with Jesus. This is the stream continues. And so what the Lord has done is I have absorbed in myself some of these things, and I'm setting forward a new rhythm for my church. And this is, they have this big council where they come together. I think it's fun that Peter claims to be the Gentile preacher. He's like, as we all know,
It started with me.
as we all know, I'm the one that went to the
I'm
Gentiles.
the pioneer. Yeah,
Because
right.
what's funny is when he went to the Gentiles, you remember in Acts chapter 10? Cornelius.
Yeah.
He went to the Gentiles, but he went to the Gentiles and told them, you know it's forbidden for me to be here. Like he's shading the thing all along, right? As if he's the brave, bold guy.
Yeah,
I love Peter. But Peter sort of glazes what's going on here. I preach to the Gentiles. And then Paul and Barnabas speak up. And so then they basically say, look, abstain from sexual immorality, steer clear of anything that's offered to a pagan god, and follow Jesus.
Yeah.
I think there's some significance to the sexual ethic of the early church. I think that it is one of the primary identifiers of us as believers in the midst of sexual promiscuity, that God's called us to demonstrate our connection to Him by the way that we, I wouldn't say rule our bodies, but the way that we submit our bodies to Him as a living sacrifice. He's going to Paul talk about that in Romans 12. But that's the big thing. This whole fight is about circumcision. So they're saying that you must be circumcised according to the Torah. So what the Jewish background believers are trying to do, and I think rightly so in the beginning, I think their hearts are probably pure in this. They're pushing to say, no, we can't let go of what we view as the stream from God all the way back in the foundation with Abraham. And I think that this decision here is the Lord speaking to His people, going, "Yeah, I fulfilled all that stuff that was there.
Yep.
To help remind you of what was to come. My Son came and did that. So let's get to stepping."
Incredible acts of faith to say, okay, all right, let's go this new way for them, like a new, quote unquote new way.
Can I just say, when I was a child, I would hear my dad talk about Acts all the time, and I think I was probably 5 or 6, and I always thought that God and His church is Acts. I thought it was like an actual axe. So when I was a little kid, I was always confused. I was like, there's a book of the Bible that's about like this tool that God uses. It's
Axes.
axe.
Yeah.
It's so metal.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is church history looks back to this moment, says this is the first ecumenical council of the church. And so what do we learn about navigating and handling conflict, doctrinal conflict in the church?
I think if we just spent time between the lines, I think that the amount of stop and let them talk, I think the amount of grace, I think the amount of humility that's on display. Because don't forget, these are water walkers. These are raised people from the debtors. I mean, like, if you think about that in our context, what happens when we disagree? We all of a sudden start, this is why I'm the bomb and you need to shut up and listen. That's a lot of times how I observe people to enter, especially powerful people.
Yeah.
And what we observe here is really, really powerful, spiritual. Paul and Barnabas have just been sacrificed to like they're gods in Lystra.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot that's going on. And I think that the way that they navigate this and move forward is challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of humility that's needed to hear opposing viewpoints, to bring wisdom, to bring unity into this situation. In fact, Jeff, so the whole topic that they're arguing about is circumcision, and it's not just medical. This is deeply cultural. This is deeply religious for them. Why is this such a sticking point for them? Can you give us some background?
Yeah. Yeah, you said it's not just medical, but there is the sanitary aspect.
It is
to
medical,
that,
but it's not. That's not it.
That's from
that
the law.
also plays into
That's the law part.
Yes,
Sure.
that's right.
But we're not talking about the covenant part.
Yeah, but there is a sense in which the sanitary and the covenant or the symbology actually go hand in hand, because the idea of circumcision was also you were stripping away that which could lead to uncleanness.
Okay.
So in the removal of the foreskin, without getting into unnecessary details, that's a breeding ground
late.
for bacteria, right? So
He's
the
already
idea that it's hard to talk about the topic without just wading into the waters. So, but in removing that, you were removing that possibility of bacteria infection, etc. Why are you making noises over there? So it symbolized an embrace of purity, the stripping away of that which could lead to impurity. And also, as a sign of the covenant physically, it was something that you can't undo.
Sure.
So
It's permanent.
It's permanent. And so this demonstrates something that's lifelong. This is ongoing. There's no getting out of this. And I mean, slightly more base, but the reality is letting somebody down there with a knife on you or your son,
It's vulnerable.
That demonstrates commitment. You know what I mean?
It requires vulnerability.
So it's
Trust.
in that sense, it's a perfect sign of the covenant in that way. It's vulnerability. It's lifelong. It's the removal of impurity. It's dedication to a different life.
Yeah.
It's separateness.
Well, and it also represents the promise.
These guys are heathens.
I know these guys are like
absolute pagans.
His way with words is just. I tell you what. I want to. I
was listening intently to what you were saying.
I want to
Fletcher
recommit.
boys
I want to
over
recommit
here.
in this moment, Jeff.
Absolute pagans.
Wow.
I want you to, man of church, I want you to see what we're working with here, okay? All right. You know.
Now that's a biblical joke.
Why is recommit funny?
I don't
That's
know.
that's a biblical joke.
I'm not going to
'cause
wade into those waters.
Paul later on deals with the circumcision crowd and says, "I wish they'd go all the way."
Yeah, he
like I wish
does.
they would recommit. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
My humor in this moment is sarcasm.
Yeah.
Pulled from Paul, who we're studying. So let's all just back the train. It's in the Bible.
It is. Absolutely.
Okay. Well.
So I can chuckle, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah, me too.
Whatever.
That's okay, Sam. Actually,
Sam,
I
you
want to
have
ask
no
you.
right to an opinion. Just stop.
I'm sorry.
We'll release that right for a brief moment while I ask you this question.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Okay.
We'll pause for a word from our sponsors, Lidl, Aldi. We're looking at you, pals.
Chicken's on sale for
That's right.
$3.99.
Come on, guys.
International cheeses.
That's right.
Nothing,
Here they have good avocados.
nothing says a great talk about the Bible like a bunch of people sitting on screen chewing into the microphone. You know, I feel like, nothing would really take us
And
to another
digesting
level.
Turn
food.
back
You'll
this
hear us digest
We
our
gain
food.
a different audience over that. All right, but Sam, I do want to ask you, let's talk about motives behind this. We've got the Pharisee believers who are the ones who are really pushing this whole circumcision thing.
Right, yeah.
Do you think that they're just trying to be difficult? Do you think that they're trying to create contention, or...
Depending on how he answers, I want to answer too.
Okay, well, I assumed as much.
Let's see if he's good enough.
Yeah, you back down.
Or do you think that they are just trying to defend the purity of their faith?
I mean, the way that I read it, just off the top, my initial reaction when I read it is yeah, I think they're just trying to be, they're trying to uphold the thing that they've always believed in, and they think it's a pillar. Like this can't move. This pillar can't move, otherwise the whole house is going to come down. So I think initially they're going, I'm just not sure that this is something that can be moved. I'm not sure
This is
that
all
this
we
is
have ever
something-
known.
Yeah, I mean, this is stuff that Moses has given them in the desert like thousands of years ago.
Right.
So it's a tradition that they've held for a really long time.
They've
and-
equated this to righteousness.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think they're not trying to be obstinate. I think they really believe in it.
Okay, so you don't think that they're trying to be controlling necessarily, right?
Yeah,
Or are they?
They might be.
Okay.
I think this has taken root in some. Here's the thing. Are you going to say that this is the whole church that is this balanced? No. I'm going to say that the council does appear somewhat balanced.
Yes.
And let's do that because of a reading of all the rest. We can't take 15 out and take it out of how it's behaved, how the church has behaved, just in general. Okay?
Good.
So let's not forget, except for in Berea, this is the first missionary journey. So the
Yeah.
journey's done. They've gone back to Antioch. We finished that in 14.
Sure.
And then
Now they're in Jerusalem.
now they're in Jerusalem, but they
Yeah.
came down to Jerusalem because of this whole question that's been
Because of
raised.
this. That's right.
But it's because of all the unrest that's
Yes.
cropped up. So what we witness in Jerusalem, different than what we witness in other places, is a startling lack of unrest. So I will say about the council, I am moved by the council.
Yeah.
Now, I joked earlier, Paul says, I wish that the circumcision crowd, this conversation, especially with the Jewish background believers, is going to plague Paul as long as he lives. So this isn't going to go away.
Yep.
It's still going to be a great big spin up whole situation type deal. And we're going to see, I mean, some of the echoes of what's happening here is what he's addressing in Galatians. This is why
Absolutely.
Galatians gets spun off.
Yes.
So in the timeline,
It's his
I'm in
first-
early Galatians-er. He's writing to. There's some that are going to say he's writing to Turkey. It's probably the area, the Galatia that's there, and I think it's his first letter he sends off, and I'm going to date it. Not like I'm a scholar, but the people
You're
that
aligning with
I
those
follow,
who-
I'm aligning with those who would date it earlier. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
probably is some echoes from what happened here because he sees some ripple other places.
two things can be true at the same time. So yeah, I don't think you're wrong either way if you believe that they really believed in that practice and some of them were being kind of controlling. I mean, you're kind of it's an impossible question to answer.
Let me throw something else in there too, though. The way I read this, especially as the Jerusalem Council forms they're going to send communication right to the Gentile believers and say, hey, here's what we think, right? As the words of that kind of are being formed here,
a strongly worded
that's
email,
right. What they say to them is, since we have heard that some persons have gone out from us and troubled you with words unsettling your minds.
That's why I said in the beginning, 30,000-foot view. They came from the church in Jerusalem, so they're from the body.
And I think I can't prove this, but the way that this is worded leads me to think that these guys who are doing this are probably these are known quantities, and they've probably done this in Jerusalem too. Like, I don't think this is the first time. I don't think this is the first time these guys have been a pain in the neck. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Are
you projecting your own wounds onto these guys?
Perhaps, maybe so. But I think these guys have probably had a round or two with the apostles already. I can't prove that. I'm not. It maybe not, but I think they've had a round or two with the apostles already. I think there's already been some disagreement with apostolic teaching. On how this ought to go.
So you sense a little bit of tension.
I do,
there.
100% yes.
What's the symbology on that?
Sam
would just want to know.
Okay.
What do you mean?
He just wanted to say a word.
He wanted to say a word.
He wanted to repeat a big
It's
word.
a word
saying
it's
symbolism.
a word that's common to me.
I'm glad he didn't say symbiology because I was headed for a combination of Simba
okay.
and biology. That would have been fun.
Okay.
I do think I do think it's important for us to take away some learning of what we observe
Yes.
here. The really, 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 really big thing is that at the end of the day, the primary heart of most all the people mentioned in here who are talking from opposite sides. Number one, I think this is why I think it's so important, Acts 13, a diverse leadership team. I think it's important to hear and understand different perspectives. I think it's important to hear and understand the hurdles that are in people's way. I think it's powerful to recognize how they dealt with their differences. I think it's powerful to recognize how they could have. Paul's one of these people who's going to respond. Paul writes books with really specific detail. And when faced with this question, a potential really, really big rift, they go back to what is important. What is important? Live your lives differently, surrender to King Jesus. And there's some wrinkles Paul's going to deal with in later. I don't think Paul was sitting there going, just wait, guys. I got some letters in me. I'll solve it later. But I do think in the wisdom of the Holy Spirit, the Holy Spirit was speaking through the leaders going, wait a minute, guys.
Yes.
Hold on. I got some things. They're coming. I'm going to deal with that when it crops up. Chill out and just follow me. And I think that what they did was they chose fellowship and community and Jesus as the centerpiece. They chose that first, and that enabled them to walk through what would ultimately become some differences. But Paul is a Jew, okay? So Paul later on in his career is going to go into the synagogue to fulfill some rites. He's going to take Timothy and circumcise him because they knew he was Greek.
Right.
So wait a minute. Paul cannot be anti-circumcision.
Sure.
Paul is anti-circumcision, adding that to the work that Jesus did.
Salvation.
That's the problem.
Right.
Yeah. The problem is they brought it into the circle.
Yeah.
Because Paul is not going to say, don't be circumcised.
Right.
Paul is circumcised.
Yeah.
Paul's going to say all sorts of things and rules, even to the Corinthian church, and dealing with things like head coverings and all sorts of stuff where he can't be talking about that. Paul prays with his head covered.
Yeah.
What he's talking about is
Is it connected to salvation?
right.
Is it a requirement?
Is there a gate before Jesus?
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, I want to bring this a little bit closer to home. So, if we follow the story, we've got Peter. He stands up, addresses the council. He lets them know, "Hey, I'm the first one who brought the gospel to the Gentiles." So at Cornelius' house, and so essentially, he's like, "Hey, let's focus on grace, not gatekeeping. We are saved by grace. So are they." And so my question is, I feel like sometimes we could fall into that same trap that the Pharisee believers fell into, where if we're not careful, and sometimes we see this around us, maybe we're guilty of it ourselves, but sometimes we'll add requirements to salvation. It's almost like the fine print in the gospel. So what are some modern...
My dad used to say there are some churches he would go visit and be around. He'd go, it's harder to join this church than it is to be in the kingdom of heaven.
Yes.
Like that was a my dad-ism to the core. My dad always sought to go, let's make enough rules to release ministry, not to control it.
Okay, let's talk about some examples.
Because we want to hold on to control, not for the sake of we say it's for the sake of the purity of Jesus. It's more for my preference and for me to be able to sit atop the pile.
What are some modern examples of the fine print of the gospel? This is for anybody.
I've got one that comes to mind immediately that Chris and I encountered. 22 years ago, we were in Jamaica and on a missions trip, not just traveling to Jamaica for the heck of it. We were on a missions trip. We were ministering.
Before we got married, we used to go to the Caribbean together, just the two of us. Yeah,
Sandals Resort for two.
When you say you traveled, was it by cruise
I'm getting
ship?
office flashbacks. Let's just stop. Okay, we were in Jamaica. There was this church we were working in, and they were holding night services. And while we were there, we saw these two guys with dreadlocks who were kind of standing in the doorway of the church. And I approached them. I don't know if you were there with me. I think you were. We approached these guys and we just talked to them, invited them in, and they said, well, we're not allowed to come in. And we were just kind of like, huh? What? Like what? Why not? We're Rastafarian, and they won't let us come in because I don't think they used the word unclean, but that's what they were saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And so it was like, well, we probably stepped out of line, but we were like, well, we're saying you can come in. Like,
we definitely overstepped.
Yeah. Wow.
We definitely overstepped because our host was very clear he didn't want this to happen.
Yeah.
And we, probably were too American in the moment. And
yes.
just were like, hey,
Agreed.
y'all come on in. And we should have appealed differently. But the truth is, like, we just did what we knew to do because of how we've been raised.
Yeah.
So we showed up at that church.
And there's
to do
a little
VBS.
arrogance there with us.
We went down. We played soccer. We played cricket. We just went around and invited the community to the evening revival service because we just thought that's how the gospel works.
Right.
You just go out and hang out with people and then bring them in and go, hey, Jesus shows a different way.
Yeah.
And we discovered that in this stream, the way that they thought about things, there were some decisions you needed to make before you could come in.
You had to get clean before you could come to Jesus.
Yeah.
Did they view like the building as holy?
I don't know.
Or was it?
That's a good question.
I don't
Not
know.
sure.
Okay. Got it.
All
All
right.
right.
Speculation at this point.
So that's one example. Can we think of some other examples of the fine print that sometimes we see trying to be added to? If you're saved, then you gotta.
We expect people outside the covenant to live as if they're in the covenant.
That's exactly it.
And we expect people who've met Jesus yesterday to behave like they've been living with Jesus for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I think that we far too often blur the lines in our own lives, so we're not walking in freedom. If I'm really, really, really gross with you, I think it's so crazy that the first century church said, stay away from all the pagan stuff. And most people are like, yeah, that's the part we can stay away from.
Right.
And abstain from sexual immorality. If I just look at the statistics of pornography addiction, et cetera, in the church, I think it's because the church, and I mean the big C, church, believers don't walk free enough from the sin that so easily entangles to be able to help people call out sin in their own lives. So they just blanket point and then step back and make it as if it's an obligation to get in.
Yeah.
Because to be honest with you, your pornography addiction isn't going to stain me unless I join you in it. Like for me to minister to somebody with raging sexual addiction only jumps on me if I decide to get near what's going on when it's going down. But for me to be, their sin's not going to jump on me. Sin is not, we don't need to wear a mask and social distance in order to keep the sin from, from getting on us.
We set standards in people's lives that we're not meeting in our own. Like we set standards that are way too high for some people.
And that's not the only reason.
Rigid.
Because people will come back and go, well, I've walked in purity my entire life.
Well, for many reasons. For many reasons.
I'm not listing that as the only reason, but I do think that is a reason. And at the same time, I think that it is, I mean, you're able to minister a relationship, you're able to offer a relationship that you walk in.
Yeah.
So I think there are times where, for the sake of other denominations, if I could go back to Jamaica and do it differently, I would have not spent time ruffling the feathers of all the church leadership by bringing those dudes in. I would have apologized. I would have presented the gospel there, and then I would have gone in and had a conversation with them. But far too often we lack the bravery and clarity we see in Acts 15.
Yeah.
The bravery and clarity was, I'll go sit down and have a council with you and talk about this. And if what I'm saying doesn't meet the sniff test of the Holy Spirit, I'll drop it and let it go.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to be clear, we're not lowering the standard or getting rid of the standard. What we're saying is these things aren't related for a requirement for salvation. Now, once you are saved, are these best practices?
Lowering
Yes.
the standard. I viscerally react to that when people talk about, you're preaching grace and not truth. No, I've read Dietrich Bonhoeffer more than most of you.
Yeah, the cost of
And
discipleship.
my dad made me memorize Romans 6 because, I know what it is to walk in some sin that so easily entangles.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not preaching cheap grace.
Sure.
No, that grace cost Jesus his life. The grace though is life transforming.
The problem is when we take these things that are helpful and best practices and we make them requirements for salvation as if it's Jesus plus something else. That's where we fall into a trap. And so I want to take it one step further and saying, what are some things that people may assume are requirements for salvation? For example, like, do you have to go to church in order to be saved? I'm not asking if it's best practice.
No,
I'm
you
not
don't have to go to
asking-
church in order to be saved.
Right.
You don't have to read your Bible in order to be saved. I would say I don't know how you're going to sustain a relationship with
Sure.
Jesus without those things.
There we go.
So
It's
the
wisdom.
reason that I preach that to you is it's like, look, are you going to die if you don't, take vitamin C supplements? No, but if it's not getting in your diet any other way, you probably should, toss an emergency in that water. No.
So we are saved by grace through faith.
Yeah.
And we're going to hold to like Jesus plus nothing.
I grew up in a very repressive homeschool situation. My parents had us involved in, primarily because of the grounding of the character that was taught. So, they're like documentaries about the homeschool association in which I grew up. And I learned from a very early age that it is important to honor the convictions that the Lord lays on my life. Is it sin for me to watch that show? No, it's not sin. But is it best for how I'm wired and what the Lord has laid on me as a buddy? You don't go that direction.
There we go.
For me, it is sin. For you, it may not be sin. For
Well, it
me,
could
it
be
is
conviction.
sin because the Lord has convicted me, brother. I need you going this way, doing this thing. So in that way, it's iniquity. It's the sin of doing my own thing.
Yeah.
So there are convictions the Lord lays on your life. The trouble is sometimes those convictions can lead to strength in my life, and there's strength and shadow to every strength. And I can take that strength and go, this strength is descriptive. And if you do these 7 steps, it'll instantly work for you as well. Write a book about it, start a podcast about it. And then all of a sudden it becomes an addition to what God requires.
Right.
And my followers do what I tell them to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's,
Yeah, you become everything
spiral.
Jesus was preaching against.
Correct.
I
I think that's dangerous.
I think that
accidental Pharisee.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm alluding to here.
And I think it's more complicated. The reality is we here who are sitting at this table live in the American South, in the Bible Belt, where we still have the rules of 19th century Christianity in place with missing much of the heart that existed at the time. So we have a culture that is still remembers all of the rules. I'm trying to think of there was an author. Anyway, she called this a Christ haunted culture.
Our chief export in North Carolina forever, our cash crop has been sin.
And guilt. Yeah.
Well, tobacco, right?
Oh, well, okay, got you. All right. So but
let's sell it, but don't dare touch it.
we live in a part of the country that is incredibly Christ haunted. That is that remembers the rules, remembers the guilt, remembers this is what you're supposed to do. This is how good people live. They go to church. They don't get drunk. They go to church. But the heart behind it is missing because you go to church because you're connected to Jesus,
Right.
And you're getting life from
it's
him.
not just on Sunday
and he's
morning.
changing you,
Right.
And it's but they have the societal features that existed with that mindset without the heart connection, and that just creates even more of a. Now we've got all these boxes we have to check that this is what good people look like.
You can do the
so-
right thing for the wrong reasons
Yeah.
and miss the whole point.
You're talking about these rules, though. Why do you think that rules feel safer for people, and why is it so hard for people
because
to
it's easier?
accept grace?
It's easier than surrendering your entire life.
Yeah, it's
because
about control.
Because Christianity in the West is lived as if it's a life edition.
Yeah.
And the difficulty is it's a life trade.
Right.
So it's not about rules and regulations and this, that, and the next. What people want is give me enough rules so I can be Christian enough so when the roll is called up yonder, I can get just enough to get over the finish line.
Yeah. If we're doing family chores on Saturday, right? It's great to have a checklist. I know when I'm done if I've got a checklist.
Sure.
So if I'm looking for I want to reach the end state. Like let me wade through, get through all the stuff to where I'm now done. I'm the acceptable.
I'm righteous.
Then a list of rules or a checklist that I can mark off. It makes it real simple.
It's formulaic.
So let me make rules out of this so that I can say no. I'm a good Christian because I've done all the right things.
Right.
It's so much more black and white that way.
Yeah.
But the reality is a heart relationship with Jesus. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not a in or out kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Chris has said this many times, and I've appreciated this so much, that holiness is a trajectory.
Yeah.
It's a direction.
Yeah.
And so
It's the space between, not rungs on a ladder.
And so being in relationship with God, that's where we're changed.
Right.
It's not because now I can tick off a list of do's and don'ts.
And zooming out all the way, what that is we like rules because I like being in the driver's seat of my own life.
That's true too.
So I like knowing when I'm done. I like knowing every turn that I have to make in life so that I can get to my destination when I want to get to my destination.
But let's take all this conversation with a grain of salt, because here again I'm talking about the line between this gets a really weird conversation because people either go, well, they're all the way grace then. They're all the way grace there at the Manna Church. You guys all work for me. I mean, I am saved by grace. I get it. I love grace, but I'm pretty big on checklists and order and
Lordship, allegiance. Yeah. Hey, come on.
Wow.
Seriously though,
but seriously,
there
To
are
him,
best
to the Lord
practices.
fealty. We're not talking about to me.
No. Oh, sorry. That is not what, my head wasn't even there,
He's
bro.
staring deeply at me and go, Lordship, allegiance. I'm like, what? You don't bow the knee.
Nobody took it that
Lord
way.
Fletcher, I am at your command. No. That is
We
not
all
at
fly under his
Manna
banner.
Church listener, viewer, that is not what I meant. I meant Lordship.
Nobody took it
of
that way.
Christ. The Lordship of
Oh,
Christ.
my goodness.
But I was talking about it from the sense that the way that I live my life is still, I am a type A driven. I'm somewhat of but just by nature, somewhat of a controller. But in that sense, it's more like in the shadow, it's control. In strength, it's called planning. Like logistics and time is not a renewable commodity. So we've got 24 hours, so let's maximize
time
what we've
management,
got.
efficiency.
I'm huge on that stuff.
Yeah.
That's how I live my life. So I'm not saying that it's personality based, that if you're the right personality, then grace will work. And if you're the wrong personality, you won't. There again, I think it's crazy to talk about grace and to think or study the character of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. If you have a few weeks at the pace most people read, you should read Eric Metaxas.
Okay.
Bonhoeffer.
Yeah, it's dense, but
That's what I meant by a few weeks. It's not a one week. Like I'm going to charge through this because it's a page turner. You got to take it in seasons. But
yeah.
Well, as we're talking about these rules versus grace and stuff, I also think that the gospel flies in the face of self-reliance. Because self-reliance says, I can do it on my own. I can earn this. And so badly we want to earn things, which is why I think sometimes rules appeal to us. You talk about the to-do list, Jeff, and that appeals to us because I can do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to check this off.
That's what Sam said.
But this idea of grace, it was never based on my work.
Correct.
It was always based on the work of Jesus. And so, yes, I absolutely agree. There are best practices. And if we want a healthy relationship, yes, we should do all these things. But when it comes to justification, our salvation, we are saved by grace through faith alone. Solamente.
I think it's
Solamente.
Yeah. I think it's also hard when we find ourselves in moments or seasons where we recognize we feel desperation, or we feel like we're behind, or we feel like we've blew it in some big way. Everything in us is driven to, okay, what do I do now to reverse that? What do I do to fix that? Some of that is probably our sin nature, but I think it's how sin nature has also bent God's design. Like we're designed to respond, but everything in us wants to, what do I do? The idea of, man, if I'm broken, if I'm damaged right now, Jesus is the answer, not me, not self-reliance, not action on my part.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I shouldn't act, but what I need to do is I need to submit myself to Jesus. I need to rest in Jesus.
Yep.
I need to trust the work of the Holy Spirit. That's much more like I'm giving up the keys.
Right.
That's right.
And
it requires more.
And everything, yes. Well, it requires trusting someone else.
Right.
And it's a someone else I can't put my hands on in the moment.
It requires your heart. It requires all of who you are. You can't just go and accomplish a task and let me go do this other thing over here. No, like if you're giving up the keys, well, then you've got authority. You use the word submission. I love that because people hate that word submission, and yet it's the requirement. I'm going to submit to his lordship.
Yeah.
It all operates within the ecosystem.
Yeah.
We always bang on about witness. I say if you're going to be religious about something, be religious about the word, be religious about your relationship with God, because the glue in which all of this works, it's like marriage, right? You can't talk about submission in marriage in 2025.
Oh, Lord.
Because someone's going to freak out.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about submission, and I actually preach this, the thing about submission that works best is when humans live in an attitude of mutual submission. I am looking arrows out to see how I can, of course, I'm going to accomplish what God has laid in front of me to accomplish, but how I can be a servant, lay my life down like he did for people that are around me. The reason I'm always going on about scripture and devotion and spending time with Jesus is because submission, and even that word, it's less icky when I'm submitting. Like I don't think about, it's never crossed my mind. Maybe it has a time or two, but for the most part, I've been married to my wife almost 21 years, and it very rarely crosses my mind to submit to my wife. I gleefully and gladly lay down what I've got.
Yeah.
There is freedom because of relationship.
Yeah.
Because of the love that we have for one another, and because of my desire to see her go, that blessed me. I want her to feel that from me.
Right.
So I shower her with my love.
Right.
Does it look like I'm submitting to my wife? Well, yeah, I guess from the outside you could call it.
But it
Chris submitted
produces
to his
so
wife.
much life.
But everybody's happier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the application of this whole thing. If you're listening, audience, and you don't have a strong relationship with the Holy Spirit, then all of this is going to sound like
Foreign.
Gobbledygook. Yeah, like what's the key to make
That was
all
a
of this
Sigur Rós
kind
album,
of
actually.
really?
Gobbledygook, yeah.
Oh, throwback. What's the key to make all of this like make sense and kind of we're painting a picture? Well, how can I get the whole scope of the big picture? Well, it's through a relationship, and you can't get it outside of it.
Yeah, and if I just made another plug, human living really does help when you work on human relationships. It helps you see the Father in a different way. It helps you see your spiritual relationship with Him. Which is why we go on about relationship and small group. And really, small group is not about committing to 13 weeks to be at a group like a robot. If I just check this off, it will work for me. I mean, I don't remember whether it was small group or I don't remember. Jeff and I have been friends for decades, but our closeness has less to do with robot, attend small group, 13. It's just, at this point, we've tipped into
rhythm.
It's just rhythm. It's just life.
Just who I am. Just how I breathe.
It's just who we are.
Yeah.
It's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And to develop those relationships, the reason that we put on small group cycles and the reason that we have topics and the reason we're trying to raise the likelihood that you find the moment when the lightning strikes.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's why we're always going on and on about, look, if you want that, this will help you in your relationship with God. When you meet people and go, I feel safety, suddenly you can be more vulnerable with Him because you go, I know what safety feels like. It's both ends sort of feed the same thing. So that's why we go on and on about go to church, be around the body, learn some things, be in small group, do some outreach. The reason that we're always on about that is because we're trying to heighten the likelihood that the discipleship moment, the lightning will strike and push you a little bit further.
Right. Yeah, I mean, pushing that analogy a little further, we can't create the lightning strike.
That's
But
right.
if you'll grab the metal rod and stand out in every thunderstorm that comes your way, the lightning's going to find you at some
more
point.
likely.
You know what I mean?
So best practices.
Yeah.
All right, I want to come back to the story. So we've got Peter who just spoke up to the council. Then after him, James, the brother of Jesus, he speaks up to the council.
He's really the defining voice.
He really is.
he is.
This is what really everything
which should
centers
speak
on.
when baby brother goes, let me drive home point Big Brother man.
Yeah.
Like that's always grabbed hold of me.
So he speaks up, and I believe he brings wisdom. He quotes scripture, but then ultimately, what I think is the biggest
You know
thing,
what
he brings
scripture he quoted?
unity. What is it out of Amos?
Yes.
Is it Amos?
It is
Yeah.
Amos.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I could not remember exactly, but okay.
that was a test. I was putting you to the test.
Hey, there you go.
Snaps for
Yay
Nick.
for that.
Good job.
All right. So, but I really believe the big thing is he brought unity, and he challenged them. First of all, he made like, hey, here's our decision. We believe that grace applies to these Gentiles, but also for the sake of unity, not a requirement for salvation.
Yeah.
But for the sake of unity, I need you guys to abide by these 4 things. And we mentioned them earlier. I'm trying to remember. Abstain from food polluted by idols,
Yep.
animals that were strangled,
Strangled.
blood,
Sexual immorality.
Sexual immorality.
That's it. Those are all of them. So he says, hey, which by the way, that shouldn't surprise anyone. Those are the things that like they've been quoting in the synagogues for years. And that's why he even says these things have been read from Moses for years. And so like none of this should be surprising people.
It's a fun sidebar, but I have read that God's sexual ethic, one man, one woman in the covenant of marriage forever, speaks to the monotheism of the Jewish people. And in the midst of a pantheistic sort of I worship the gods.
Yeah.
The whole idea of one,
Polygamy.
one is about
Right.
you shall serve the Lord your God and serve him only.
Temple prostitution makes sense in a multiple deity context, or
course.
in a yeah.
I honestly never thought about it that way.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
interesting. But Sam, this question's for you. So amidst all of this conflict, they're having to navigate this. They're having to fight for unity. And I love that phrase because it really does demonstrate what has to happen. Unity's not going to fall in your lap. You got to fight for
Don't
it.
run out of time before we talk about some disunity.
Right. Yeah.
Acts 15
Yeah.
does have a marvelously disunifying.
Which you can't ignore.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get
We
there.
can't glaze over
We're
that.
going to get there. But
All right.
there are times for the sake of unity that we will do things that we normally wouldn't do or abstain from things that we would normally do just for the sake of unity. How does that principle apply to us today?
I think it applies to us because we're all living within a community, all chasing after God and what he has for us as individuals and for us as a community. So whatever is best for the community, whatever moves everybody forward is the thing that I think, to give an example here. Paul talks about not eating meat that's sacrificed to idols if he's amongst people who have a conviction about that.
It's going to make them stumble.
Right, it's going to make him stumble. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get people to take a step forward in whatever God has for them, and whatever method that looks like, I am prepared to do that.
And just like the Jerusalem Council, being then free, because there are people who push on you about stuff. So I have tattoos. I used to lead worship. I would wear a hat when I led worship. There are all sorts of taboo things that people will say, I've got biblical precedent, which I have, deeper questions about. But they have all sorts of what they believe to be biblical precedent, which obviously I clearly can't agree with. I don't agree with. But I will still do. I can remember a time I went to an overseas missions trip where I mistakenly misunderstood the ministry partner to say, we don't want to see any tattoos. So in July,
You're covering up.
I did for a week.
Yeah,
I covered
their sake.
every one of my tattoos the entire
Absolutely.
time for their sake. I think it's important to remember that just like the Jerusalem Council, we can sit down and have a conversation where we get to the place of, well, let me explain to you where I'm coming from. Like let me explain this to you. And in the case of the ministry partner, they found out later and were like, no, this is a conviction for me, not for you. Yeah. So I'm saying, I didn't mean, I communicated that poorly. For me, this is not an option. I'll not get tattooed. But for you, man, come on. Wear shorts, t-shirt. It's cool.
Yeah, and the
But
principle.
we only got there by not being weird about it.
Mutual submission.
Talking.
Yeah.
With our mouths.
Yeah.
Not on social media.
I was going to say, man, we really stray from
Nameless-
that these days. We
Lord
would
have mercy.
much prefer talk behind someone's back, and I don't understand why.
We joked about Jeff. We joked about Jeff's Danish roots,
That's
and
fair.
now he can't hit the snooze bar because suddenly the raiding Vikings, who almost took over England in the 9th century,
they did actually.
suddenly
They did, right? Yeah, they did.
But for one kingdom.
Eventually,
My people.
But anywho,
My people, stop it.
but anywho,
You don't even know those people.
we were making fun of Jeff earlier, but I know we have a long history in America of Ben Franklin was silenced do good. Ben Franklin was only silenced do good because he could have been arrested and all sorts of crazy stuff. Like that was what was on the other side. So we all like to quote the Silence Dogood letters as if this gives us our reason to write online with a pseudonym. You don't have nearly the same difficulty, A. And B, I think that a lot of people in America lack the learning to sit down and have a thoughtful conversation. Yeah. That's not a dig, but apply that where it fits. And I think that we lack the intestinal fortitude to actually sit down and have a conversation.
The empathy to like sit down and
we lack. I think we lack those two things more than we lack the care for others. We have empathy. We're bleeding.
Okay, thank you.
We're bleeding.
Yeah, I agree
with empathy, but it's baseless empathy.
Yes,
because it's empathy without foundation is basically like me going, you want to swim, we're in the middle of the ocean, so I'm going to take your life preserver off and toss you in because I'm empathetic to your desire to swim.
I'm going to crawl into your pain and have no way out myself.
You can't
like that.
You can't sustain. You can't sustain
that.
Yeah. And I think that unity, for the sake of unity, we're
an
all
old
willing,
Civil War
an old
ship.
Civil War ship, the USS Unity. No, it's not that actually. It's deeper than that. Chris, let me tell you about it.
Wow.
You got a second?
I do, Ron.
Okay.
Oh my
gosh. I'm sorry. So I mean, like unity. If I'm in pursuit of unity, that is a deeper calling than just I get to practice my rights as an American to do what I want when I want. It's a deeper, higher standard calling that we all must attain to in order to achieve that.
Yeah.
Because I can do my thing and I can wear the stuff that I want and I can, say the stuff that I can say because the law says that I can. But when you're pushing people away, and you say that you're a follower of Jesus, which is more important to you? Which is more important to me? Is it what Jesus has set aside for me to do, or is it my rights?
Glibly quoting a rule to say that there are no rules, I can do and say whatever I want is, it just sometimes.
So
sometimes I wonder if all of America slept through Western Civ.
Yeah.
Because I think if fewer people slept through Western Civ, a lot of people would go, this is cyclical. They did this once already.
This keeps happening.
And if it was more of a focal point in school.
Okay. Well, Jeff, I want to keep it moving. So I feel like this chapter, it shows us how the gospel transcends culture.
Okay.
It doesn't erase it. It transcends it. So how do we appropriate
What a guy.
the message of the gospel to diverse contexts?
How do we appropriate? Well, I mean, I think we need to be sensitive in how we're communicating the gospel. We need to look for what your father-in-law talked about. He taught us this, in our undergraduate program, redemptive analogies in various cultures. Yeah. How can we communicate the gospel in ways that make sense to this unique people group? But we also need to major on the majors and not on the minors. And so
that's why it's good to have these priorities set ahead of time.
Yeah, like we need to not chase away or deny aspects of someone's culture that aren't problematic. Right.
Yeah.
So something comes to mind, and I know Chris is dying to make a comment, but let me get this out first. I think about Muslim background believers who I've heard stories of who they come to Jesus, but they still pray 5 times a day, and they still follow disciplines that they learned in Islam.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing wrong with those disciplines.
Absolutely.
Right.
In fact, that's a great practice.
And so they're asking questions like, can we follow Jesus and still be Muslim? Which to us, we go, well, no. But what they mean is, can I still live within the culture and practice the cultural things that I've known my whole life and follow Jesus? And the answer is yes, unless it's something very specific.
Yeah.
Unless
it's contradicting
that doesn't
scripture.
work. Yeah, right.
It's 2 statements. Back to the Western Civ statement. I think that blind adherence to colonialism is.
Oh well. Okay. Yep.
I mean, part of the issue. The second statement that I would make is I would refer our loyal listener watchers back to last week in Acts chapter 14.
Yeah.
When Paul and Barnabas bump into this exact same cultural situation with all these people sacrificing to them.
Yep.
What we don't find Paul and Barnabas going is, you wicked, dirty heathens.
Yeah.
Sacrifice. What morons you are. No.
Just
They
point
go,
them to Jesus.
They go, oh, wait a second. Hold on. This is exactly why we came, was to point you to Jesus.
That's
because as I explained in the message last week, if you just stop for a second and do just some really basic reading of the religious background of the area in which Paul and Barnabas are preaching in that moment, that legend of Zeus and Hermes is real deep.
Oh, yeah. Well, we
So-
explained it on the podcast. Yeah.
They're just knee-jerking back to exactly what they saw. And Paul and Barnabas just use that as an opportunity to go, whoa. We're actually preaching what you're talking about.
Right.
Only there's one
Right.
God. There's one king. His name is Jesus. And they go right back to the gospel.
You know, like a little offshoot of this, and I don't think this has anything to do with what we're talking about really, but it's important to be a student of the people that you're trying to reach. It's important to be a student of the cultures that don't just surround my culture, but surround other people's cultures. I mean, it's important to be flexible with how I see myself in the world and how I see what I do in the world.
Yeah.
Because it's just one of many.
It's the foundation. Like if I go real 1776 on you, it's the foundation of us as a people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so we've already said this. This is a really big moment for the early church. All this that's happening with the Ecumenical Council of Jerusalem. If the apostles got this moment wrong, it's possible that it could have fractured the church. Now, obviously, in God's sovereignty, yeah, I got that. But I'm saying, like, this is a really big moment.
Yeah.
So how does this chapter challenge us to protect unity without compromising truth? This question's for you, Chris.
I think that we've pretty much hit it with most of what we've talked about in terms of our attitude, in terms of humility, in terms of mutual submission. I think it's huge given this is Luke. Luke writes Acts, and while he is specific and he leaves some stuff out, he puts a lot of stuff in on purpose. There are a lot of times in the book of Acts where someone starts to speak and they are shouted down. It was fairly common in first century culture to shout down and drown out something you didn't want to hear.
Yeah.
People act like it's unprecedented times in America, 2017 through 2025.
There's nothing new under the sun.
Shouted out culture. It's like there's nothing new under the sun. It's cyclical. And that doesn't happen. Right. In this council, there are wildly divergent viewpoints. It does not happen. They submit to wisdom. They hear wisdom and go, you know what? I trust James enough to submit what I think. I bet you there's some people in that room who walked out going, you know what? This is not what I would have done, but if we're abstaining from sexual immorality, if we're going to stay away from really, really pagan stuff, you know what? I can get behind this.
In fact, we talked about this in previous weeks. It was back with the Jerusalem Council in previous chapters.
Yeah.
And all the assembly fell silent. The designation, what that meant was they all went, oh, wait a minute. We need to step back and hear this.
Yeah. They felt something that made them fall
That
silent.
is right. That.
Yeah.
All right. So the chapter ends with a really interesting note, because you've got Paul and Barnabas who say, hey, we should go back and visit all of those believers, all of those churches that we established on the first missionary journey. We should go back and visit them.
Yeah.
And so Barnabas is like, we should take Mark with us again. And Paul is like, no, I don't want to do that. And so they end up having this. It says that a sharp disagreement arises. Barnabas goes his own way. He takes Mark with him, and they sail over to Cyprus, the island of Cyprus. And then meanwhile, you've got Paul and Silas who go their own way, and they go up north through the rest of Cilicia and rest of Syria. Anyway, so they split. So this question's for everyone. This is our last question. So we've just seen throughout the rest of this chapter this massive example of unity, and then this happens between Paul and Barnabas, and they're splitting up. So is this a sign of division? Is this undoing some of the unity we just saw, or can this still be unified? Can they still be unified in heart while going their own separate ways? What's going on?
They still could be unified in heart. At the same time, it is fairly evident that there is some kind of preferential something going on. It's hard to lay blame solely on one person because everybody gets to share a little something in here. I am not someone that says that Paul sweeps his foibles under the rug. He's pretty open with them. We talk about his thorn in the flesh, this, that, and the next. He's got some issues. Barnabas is mostly a son of encouragement. I feel like at the end of the day, it's probably Paul who had the sharpest of disagreement, and probably just based on their personalities. If you put me in a corner and said, which guy was like, fine, we're not doing this. I doubt it was Barnabas. It was probably Paul. But,
he's an argumentative guy. He's a passionate guy.
Paul and Barnabas are still going off and doing the stuff. They're just split over whether to take this dude. There is no way around the fact that John Mark has caused division because of that character gap that I preached about. He was outrunning his coverage.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's not about skill, because Barnabas is going to take him, and Barnabas' ministry is going to work as well, and then eventually it's going to come full circle, and he's going to be useful to Paul. Again, they're going to have a restorative moment.
Yeah.
But I think the turkey here is Mark, because while everything still works out in God's sovereignty, I do have to wonder, had he not fumbled, I do have to wonder if this journey and this conversation would have gone differently. Now, clearly, it's the sovereignty of God. 'cause
Exactly.
Yeah.
Paul's going to pick up Timothy.
Well, that's not to say that we can't learn something here. Like, I mean, we find ourselves in similar situations where, man, I didn't handle that the first time, and now I got to walk out some consequences.
Yeah, but we don't look back on that in the future and go, but that was my failure was God's sovereignty, because if it hadn't been for that, like we don't get to do that. We don't get that pass.
What the enemy meant for evil, God means for good. So he's going to sovereignly, he's going to do what he's going to do, and the gospel is going to extend. Our mistakes, what you're saying also, Chris, our mistakes do carry weight, and they have repercussions.
And that's where the Puritans used to say, God uses crooked sticks to make straight lines. And so, yes, God's sovereignty, yes, he's going to accomplish his will, and he's going to use his people. That doesn't purify all of the things we do. It's that we make mistakes, and he's just so good that he can use us in our mistakes to accomplish his will.
We should have some grace when we talk about this, because where people get twisted in this conversation, I perceive, is they have experienced hurt at the hands of church leadership in this authority split division. You let the church down, and so they hear things like that, and because of their past, when someone has either explicitly or implicitly communicated that to them, meaning they've specifically said words like that, or they've implied that you have let the church down, you've let people down. That brokenness and that pain means they approach these stories, and they approach how we're preaching even about them, and they go, I've had some people run me down and go, you're preaching wrong about John Mark. And it's all I can do not to go, let's talk about why you think that. Because, I mean, there's scholarship that might agree with you, but there's more that's going to agree with me. So it seems like in the grand scheme of things, based on how the thing is written, we know what happened, or an idea of how it went down. So I wonder if a lot of times our reaction isn't surfaced from some kind of pain, from our unresolved pain from our past.
And, I wouldn't be here without a second chance. I wouldn't be here.
None of
I
us
don't think
would.
any of us would. So, grace needs to abound for people who make mistakes. They need to own up to their mistakes. And they need to submit to the authority that's there. But the authority needs to give grace to people, because there's not anybody here who has.
It's why we take apart your character and your skills. When I preached on this, it's why it's so important that we take them apart, because what we got to recognize is your character will put you on all sorts of platforms that your skill will or won't maintain. At the same time, there's sometimes where you'll meet character-laden people who just don't have the skill to do what they're being asked to do, and we wonder why the equation is off. It's not that skill doesn't matter. You should grow in your skill. If you want to do a task, you should be good at it. If not, that's the beauty of Barnabas. Get out of the way and let Paul do it. I mean...
Well, and what I find encouraging here at the end of the story is that they can still be unified in heart and go different ways. And I feel like we need to get better at that.
You think they were unified in heart?
No, well, they're still going after the same mission.
They had the same end goal.
Yeah, I think
that's
they're
what I'm
unified
saying.
in mission.
So
I think they're cheesed
in
off
terms
at
of
each
their
other.
relationship.
But that's my point.
they're
That's my
not.
point. Can you have a sharp disagreement with someone where you
'Cause-
maybe split ways, and you know what? We're still brothers in Christ.
Yes, there's a little part of me that wonders if Timothy's immediate placement on the team is a little bit because Paul was reacting to Mark.
That's interesting. It's an interesting thought.
Because he goes off with Silas, so then Silas is the Barnabas replacement. So Paul goes, I'm just going to replace this John Mark turkey. So he goes and grabs Timothy. Now again, sovereignty of God, it all works out.
Right.
Everything happens.
yeah.
But I don't know that it's like completely pure Christian motive.
I think they have things to
leads
repent for.
Paul to
As I read it, it would seem to me as if there may be some things that could have been handled better. But at the end of the day, they're still advancing the kingdom. They're still submitting themselves to the Lord. They're still, you know what I mean?
There are descriptive and prescriptive actions in Scripture that are recorded where the human being had to repent for the action that was taken.
Yeah.
It's not a blanket. You can go and do this and get away with it. Like
I think they probably should have. I think they probably should have met together sooner than probably they did to repent to each other and to make
Get
it
it
right
sorted
between
Probably.
each other.
But, Luke includes this for a reason. Like Luke's not trying to hide that this happened. So it's there. There's a pastor who I appreciate who says, good news, you're worse than you think you are. And what he means, and then he follows that up, also good news, grace is better than you think it is.
Amen.
It's not cheap, but it is life consuming.
We're worse than we think we are. And you know what? The church is an imperfect entity because it is made up of imperfect people who do stupid things and
God is
divide
just that
over
good.
things they shouldn't divide over. But in the midst of that, the church is still the church victorious and still moves the mission forward.
Right. Yeah.
And reconciliation in circumstances like this can still take place.
You know, I have actually read places that have said that perhaps Luke was compiling the Acts of the Apostles and focusing so much on Paul because these were some of the beginnings of the papers that became Paul's defense. That this is some of his defense statement that helps make sense to a judge what's going on in Paul's life and why there's this friction of what's led him to where he is.
That's interesting thought. Well, we could keep going, but we're not. So we will continue next week with Acts chapter 15.
But
no,
now
16.
We shall stop.
16.
Yeah, 16.
That's right. So, all right, for our final segment, producer Bryson, what are we talking about?
Yeah, we have talked a lot about outreach. We've talked a lot about Serve Month, and it is officially concluded. So we want to show you guys a wonderful recap of our Serve Month. So go ahead and take a look at this video.
Check it out.
So, man of church, I just want to tell you, I'm so proud. I'm so proud to be the pastor of this church. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what we've done. I said this on July 13th when I spoke to our family legacy outreach at our Cliffdale site. I said, you really always need to remember there's no such thing as small outreach. We watch seemingly small, innocuous decisions happen here in the book of Acts that lead to the reason we're practicing our faith today. Like, at the end of the day, what you need to remember is submit to God, be his hands and feet, help people find him however that happens, and never call outreach small. Always, always, always remember that if it puts a smile on his face, then at some level the world has changed.
That's good. Man. Also, we want to say thank you to you, the viewer. Maybe you don't live here in Fayetteville, Fort Bragg, but maybe you're watching, and this is our 22nd episode, and we've been so blessed to have you along the ride. We talk about how you are invited to the table.
Michael Jordan's episode's coming up next week then.
23. That's it.
Wow.
We're getting there. But I just want to say thank you. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for being a part. Thanks for commenting and liking and subscribing. We love seeing our audience participate and engage and grow. So we love you guys so much. Also, if you do live here in this area, we'd love to invite you to one of our in-person services. You can always get more information about Manna Church at our website, manna.church. You can see service times and locations. You can download our app. But if you don't live here, tune in online, our YouTube channel. We'd love to have you along. But God bless you guys, and until next time, let's change the world. Check out our website, manna.church, to find ways you can get connected with our services, small groups, outreaches, and more.